The Get Better podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The opinions expressed are those of the participants. Please remember to gamble responsibly.
Let's talk a little bit about the double under.
Ooh. I just want to be really clear that there is no other bet that I have in my arsenal that I feel more confident about. Not one.
Welcome to Get Better Sports for March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day. In true fashion, not a stitch of green on you or I. Very, very festive of us. But nonetheless, we hope that everyone is enjoying their St. Patty's Day. This week, we are going to talk about March Madness, which is obviously the hot topic of the week in the sporting world, given that it is the start of March Madness. I'm here with Troy Gubb. Troy, how you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Looking forward to this week. I like to think of this week as kind of when you and I started gambling together. It's kind of where the fun started. Yeah. And the fact that we've taken this to this level of a podcast now, exciting times ahead.
Yeah, you're very true. And we're gonna touch on that a little bit later. And I'll let you share a bit of a story around our March Madness betting theory. And it was you and myself and our good friend Juice, who joined us last week on the podcast. A good shout out to Juice again and a thanks to him for joining us. Some hot tips there around NBA props. So this week we're gonna do a couple of things here because I think there's a lot of ways to look at March Madness, and there's a lot of interest from both the hardcore and the casual bettor as well. So I think what we want to do is let's just get a lay of the land for March Madness in general. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the theory and share that story that sort of got us into betting together around March Madness. We're going to look at a couple long shots because the long shots are always fun. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of people like about March Madness is, especially in that first round, there's some deep seeds there that could potentially upset. And that is the most fun in watching March Madness.
Who doesn't love a Cinderella story? It's what it's all about. I think that's what everybody's waiting for.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think to me, it's the most exciting part about watching March Madness is looking for those upsets. And then at the very end here, we're going to talk about bracket because obviously everybody picks a bracket and wants to get involved. So we're gonna take you through some things to watch out for, some key tips and tricks around picking a bracket. But first, let's
just before we even say anything, have you ever won a bracket pool?
Like March Madness?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm trying to think. I don't think I have, to be honest with you.
I've never won a March Madness pool, but after the research we put in this week, I think I'm going to get one. Now, I might only have a couple of people in the pool.
Bold statement.
Yeah, but I think I'm going to beat the one with my friends this year. I think I got a shot.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a good point because in terms of the bracket, because I think a lot of people get involved in March Madness because of the bracket. Like that's one of the things that is obviously most popular with regards to sort of the casual betting gaming scene, is that everyone wants to fill out the bracket and follow it and see how well they do. And you don't really have to know a ton about NCAA basketball to get involved in play. Like it's not that complicated. The likelihood of you winning is probably not high, but I think for me, like I'm the perfect example of that. When it comes to NCAA basketball, am I following it throughout the year? No, I'm not, to be honest. I'm not following it. I really watch this tournament, and that's about the gist of what I watch in regards to NCAA basketball. So yeah, it wouldn't be hard to think that I haven't had a lot of success with my brackets in the past. Like, how often are you following and watching NCAA basketball throughout the course of the season?
So I've learned more this week about just the conferences. I couldn't even tell you. If you were to say, hey, Troy, what team is this conference in? Not a clue, not one clue. Now I kind of have a little bit of an idea, and we'll talk a little bit how the conference play sort of helps us with some of our picks.
Yeah.
But no, I would say zero college basketball I watched throughout the year, but when March Madness rolls around, I'm fully engulfed, at least for those first couple weeks until my bracket's dead, or the under theory we'll talk about is over.
Yeah. So I think it's a good point we bring up on in regards to the casual fan and betting when you're looking at betting, because you'll see sort of a flood of money into the market with regards to some of the online bookies, and just a lot of that is just the casual fan that wants to get involved and play. Maybe they set the bracket, they want to step a little further, they're gonna play some wagers as well, and oftentimes you may want to fade the public, and that's where I think you do have to do a little bit more research when you're looking at those lines, because like us being very uneducated in NCAA basketball, college basketball, you may just look at it and say, I know what Gonzaga is. That sounds like a good school and a popular school. I'm going to select that one. So there's a good chance the public tends to go with sort of the popular schools, the bigger schools, the ones with the big names, without even really looking closely at that line and understanding what's happening. So I agree with you. Through this week, a bunch of research done, learned a ton more, and able to make some more educated guesses, I guess you could say, in terms of my picks. So I'm excited about this week. Outside of the fact that we get to watch great basketball and it's a lot of fun to follow the tournament along. I think I'm going to be a little bit more involved on placing a few wagers this week and throughout the tournament.
Totally. I don't think I've ever felt more confident. I mean, it just comes back to everything we always talking about. It's put in that work. Just a little bit of work will make you feel a little bit more confident about the picks you're taking. And again, just as you were talking about fading the public, the public coming into play, they're going to stick to those names. I can't tell you how often I see a name every year. I'm always betting that team because it's the only team I know. Any of those teams that, the Virginias or the Syracuse, like for some reason, I'm drawn to those names repeatedly just because year after year, that's the only time I ever see them.
Yeah. It's, that's totally fair. I hear you on that. It's also one of the reasons why betting NCAA basketball scares me a lot, because I think there's just so much swing in the lines, and it's hard to tell what's happening, who's betting who, and is it the first time that people have placed any wagers. So it's always interesting to look at.
So when we're talking about fading the public, it's really about when you're going to do that bet, and it's as late as possible. So for those games that are on Friday morning, look Friday morning and take a look at those lines. If you see a team that's at minus 110 and one that's at minus 120, that the money's going on that minus 120 team. That's where the public's going. So a good theory is to take the opposite.
Yeah. Or at least put in some of the work there to get a sense as to what those two teams are, right? And then if you've got enough validation to take the minus 110 and it makes sense, you might get some value. It's worth looking at for sure.
Totally. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the double under.
Ooh. So I just want to be really clear that there is no other bet that I have in my arsenal that I feel more confident about. Not one. I've never felt, I guess, like Superman in my life, except for the first year I ever did the double under. And
the first year, let's be clear on that. First year, because I did the second year with you. Yeah. And I'm not feeling the same degree of confidence that maybe you're exuding here right now.
So I will say, that this has been in practice for a while, but I really did it a couple of years ago. I had heard about this and it makes total logical sense. So we'll let you in on a big tip, and, terrible to ever give out this tip to the mass, because as the more people will bet on this, the likelihood of me winning it again will be terrible. So the theory is that these kids, for the first time, a lot of them are now playing on the biggest stage of their life. Yes, they've had televised games during the year, but this is it. Everybody is watching March Madness. This is where the casual fans, this is where for the first time ever, somebody really gets to know, hey, this is a guy, this is his name. And that puts so much pressure on these young kids. So if you think about it, are they going to be a little bit nervous? Oh, yeah. And what happens when someone's nervous? What part of their game starts to go? I think their shot gets a little nervous. So the theory is that first part of the game, the first half of the first round, right? So this, again, this is really just a round one play. You have 32 games. That first half total, bet the under. Bet it strong. I think we were doing $20 bets, $25 bets. I think we got up to 50 at one point last year, but bet it strong. And if it wins, if that under goes under, you win. You walk away. You take it. Now, they won't all go under in the first half. Definitely will not happen on every time. The second half, do it again. Do it again. Bet the second half under again.
If it doesn't, if the under doesn't hit in the first half, you bet the second half. Hence the title of the theory, double under.
Correct. Double under. My favorite bet in all of sports. So to give some background, when we did this back in, I guess it was 2 years ago, I believe only 2 teams out of the entire 32 did a double over. So that's really the only place you lose is the double over. And 2 years ago, I think it was only 2 teams did the double over. So it was just a fantastic payday. Again, this is a round one theory only. I'll be honest, after round one, I liked it so much. I started to play in round 2 and 3. They're not as nervous. So the whole theory went to crap. So, but I can't wait to do it again. Now, do you want to talk a little bit about what happened last year?
Yeah, I think we can, because and last year was the first year we did it combined. So you'd given me the tip 2 years ago, and I kind of got into it late in round one, and I saw some success. I did see some success late in round one when I first did it. I didn't bet the entire round, but I definitely ended up in the green, which was nice. I was like, wow, maybe he's on to something. So the next year rolls around, and you and I and Juice decide that
so bad,
maybe it's a good idea that we collaborate on this one and chase the dream on the double under. And sure enough, we did that, and it was a rocky roller coaster.
Totally.
I'm still calling success.
I'm calling it an anomaly. Like this was a blip, not the trend.
So let me throw something at you, because I've been doing some thinking around this, and realistically, what we're betting on are the nerves of these young men playing basketball. That's exactly what we're betting on. Is how nervous are they?
In the world their mental willpower, I'm betting
100% mental willpower. In the world of professional sports, and how much has professional sports evolved in the sports psychology landscape, where I think professional athletes, and I'd be curious to understand how much support NCAA players get in the sports psychology place, where they are trained for moments like this. And we've come so far from 2 years ago, where you had all this success, that these guys are coming into the tournament with the best sports psychologists and just flat out know how to play under pressure. Now, you know what? We're going to test the theory, though. We're going to chase the double under again this year. We're going to see what happens.
32 games. We'll figure out where it ends up. You know, I think what happened was we got a little too crazy last time. I mean, I remember at one point we only had maximum bets. We had some big bets going. I remember at one point we had lost and we kept losing. We're like, we have nothing left in the tank. We made a bet on roulette or something on one of the apps just to get back in, and we hit. And we're like, we're back, and then we threw it back on the game. Lose, we're out again. Oh, it was a great time.
I think there was an
Yeah.
occasion there where we I think you may have accidentally doubled up on a bet.
Yeah, I bet the same one twice. It's because
yeah,
you got to bet it in the second half, and there's so much going on at the same time.
Yeah.
Oh man, you need to take a day off work for those ones, but no, we plowed through it in the office, and oh man,
it was
a lot of good laughs.
It's definitely a fun one. We're gonna test it again. We're gonna see what happens with that one, and hey, who knows? Maybe we'll have a theory on this by the end of this year. But I will say too, in the research that I did this week, I did see a lot of recommendation to bet the first half under, and I think a lot of it is based on the fact that it might take some time for the offense to get rolling. Not only just the fact that they're nervous, but they also come in and just so overhyped. Right? They're just so anxious. There's so much adrenaline pumping that sometimes it takes them a little bit to settle in. So I do like the first half under, and then obviously, doesn't
double up on the second half.
That second bet on the double under is always
that's the tough one too, because the theory I was taught was just do the same bet on the second half, so you're just trying to win your money back. The gambler in me is like, nah, let's go for it. Let's still get the win. So then I do the double up on the double under on the second half, and I think that might be a mistake, but let's find out this year.
I think you could probably classify that as brutal bankroll management.
Oh,
like that's absolutely. Probably not the best bankroll management. Not something that we would recommend. I think if you're going to test it out for the first time, take the theory of just placing the same wager on the second half. Try to get the money back.
Keep it consistent, and then see how you do at the end.
Yeah, have some fun with that one.
So which kind of leads us into the third tip. It's really a fun tournament to bet. It's engaging, and I think what everybody loves to do is, again, find the underdog, find the story, and say, I had it. I had that underdog. Everybody wants to be able to say, I had that 14, I had that 13th seed. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think, like we said off the top, one of the best parts about NCAA March Madness is the fact that you can almost guarantee that there's going to be an upset in that first round. It's coming. It's rare that it doesn't happen. So it's always a matter of trying to figure out and determine who is that upset that you want to take within that first round and what that looks like. I think we've got a couple that we could look at here. This could be a year too where we see multiple upsets. I think it's not necessarily uncommon to see that, but that's always the fun part of it, is trying to pick that long shot, that upset, and what that's going to be, and knowing that you've got that one. So, an interesting stat that I came across when I was going through some of the research this week around the number 12 seed. And I think there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this, right? Like there's different seeds. I think, I can't remember what the number was when we were talking about it before, but the 16 seed, how many times have they upset? I think it might've been once or something to that effect, right? So as you work down closer through the seeds, the odds get a little bit better in the favor. But an interesting stat I came across on the 12 over 5 upsets is that since the start, so since the tournament in 1985, where they expanded the field to 64 teams, the number 12 seed, I think, has won 35.7% of their games. So in 35 years, at least one 12 seed has pulled off an upset, 13 years, at least 2, 5 years, at least 3, and then in 5 years, no 12 seed has pulled off the upset. So I kind of like that number and those odds a little bit there. It tells me that there may be something to play with. I didn't dive deep into what the 11 seed looks like. I didn't go even deeper into the 10, the 9, all that. But I think there's a couple here that are worth exploring. I've got a long shot that I really like. That I think I'll probably bet on. and put a little bit on, and I think you might have one too. I'll go first.
Go for
it. The one that I'm looking at right now is a 12 seed. So it's Winthrop versus the number 5 Villanova. And the rationale for me behind this is,
can we just be clear for a second?
Yeah.
Is it Winthrop?
I think it's Winthrop. I don't know how else you would pronounce that. I'm pretty sure it's Winthrop. I'm not up to snuff on my my American geography by any means.
Okay, tell me what state Winthrop is in.
Don't even. Why would you ask me that? Like, how would I know that? I don't know what state that's in.
I have no clue.
But what I do know,
that's what I love about March Madness.
Exactly.
This is maybe the second time I've ever heard of Winthrop. Go for it.
It might be the first time I heard of Winthrop. But what I do know is the Winthrop, the Eagles are 23-1. Okay. In this particular season, they seem to have it rolling coming into the tournament. And I think there's something to be said there for that. And we're going to touch on that in a little bit. But the unique thing about Winthrop is they just run a ton of players out there. They've got 11 players that are averaging 11 minutes. So what that allows them to do is force the tempo and wear teams down. And the reason why I like this pick is when you look at Villanova, yes, I think Villanova is probably the better team when they are healthy and rested. Unfortunately, that is not the case. Villanova's got a couple of key guys that are nursing some injuries right now, and some guys that are out. So with that style of play where Winthrop, if that's how we're pronouncing that correctly, they have the ability to keep the tempo up, to run the pace. They're playing well. They are 23-0. I think they're a legit team. It could happen here. And they're playing against a Villanova team that's a little bit banged up, not so rested, has lost 3 of their last 4. And that's never a good sign coming into March. You like to have some momentum. You like to have some upside. You like to have some wins on your belt and a bit of a streak going on. So I like the Eagles here. Winthrop, whatever state they're from, I have no idea. I'm gonna lay a little bit on Winthrop and the upset over Villanova.
So I have to admit, when I too, we were talking about the 12 seed. That's where I'm looking as well. And I the first moment, that was the very first out of all the 12 seeds, the one that jumped out with Winthrop. And then I started to think about it a little bit. I'm like, well, first of all, just like we were just laughing at, where the hell is Winthrop? And then the second thing that came to me is the divisions, and I don't know a lot about the conferences, but I do know there are power conferences, and I see that they're in the Big South. I've never heard of the Big South. I'm not making fun of the Big South. Well, maybe I am. I don't know. I just don't think that's a very big conference. Where I'm going on the 12th seed is the Pac-12. That sounds like a big name, big seed, or they got some big names in there, and it's Oregon State. I would, again, knowing nothing about the team, nothing about the history, I'm looking at them, winning the Big 12 Pac tournament as the number 5 seed. These guys are on a roll. I'm playing the heater, and I'm going at them to take down Tennessee. Do I know enough about Tennessee? Not a chance. When I think about the team, it seems like a team that's always there every year. So I'm going with Oregon State, total gut feel, riding the heater.
I did come across this one as well. The two things about Tennessee why I can never bet against them. I got a ton of family from Tennessee, big Vols fans, and so that would that would not go over well with the family down in Tennessee. The only thing that makes me a little bit nervous about Tennessee and taking Oregon State is I think the Vols have got a really solid defense, and that's something that that's something that can, even if your offense isn't firing on all cylinders, not playing particularly well in this tournament, if you've got a good D, and you can play the other side of the ball, it can keep you in a game long enough for somebody off the bench or someone on your offense to find some rhythm and start to score some points. So I think the one thing you got to watch for is that Tennessee defense. But I did come across that one with Oregon State. Mm-hmm. So not a bad pick. It's probably one that's worth having a peek at for sure.
Yeah, you hit on that defensive stat. I was just looking at. That was one of the very first things after you told me that. As I went and took a look, and I'm like, two other teams jumped out at me, like Houston. I think they're number 2 team. Loyola Chicago, they're I think number 8. I'm like, I'll remember those ones when I'm picking my bracket.
Yeah, and it's kind of a good transition into what to look at when you're picking your bracket. And there was a bit of a stat that I did come across as well. Big stats guy this week with regards to the March Madness, but and this stat was actually, I think it was dating back to I want to say it was dating back to the 2019 tournament, but it was really about having balanced teams being there in the end, right? And I think at the end of the day, you really sort of need to look for those teams that can play both sides of the basketball. And when I looked at it, I think it was over the last 18 tournaments, there was only one champion that had ranked outside the top 20 in offensive efficiency, and none had ranked outside the top 20 in defensive efficiency. So it's one of the things that I came across, and the more and more I read about it, I noticed that as I touched on with regards to Tennessee, is yes, you need to have a balanced team, but if you had to pick one side of the ball that you felt could keep a team in it, I think you want to lean more to the defensive side. Totally. You've got a team that has got a really strong defense. Their offense is kind of hit or miss. That defense can make up for some falters on the offensive side. So I think it's important to look at.
I think that plays into that the nervousness, the side of what's the part that's going to go, the shot, but won't go is the defense. That part will be there. Yeah. So having a stronger one, even better idea.
Yeah.
So let's, if you're, I think one of the things, why don't we pick our bracket? Let's pick our winner. Let's have at least a little friendly.
Sure. How do you want to break it down?
So I think one tip we should, before we even make our pick, is one theory is, most of the sites you pick your bracket out from in, right? You start with the 1-16, you pick. But a lot of the reading I was looking at, the people that have won before, and something I'm going to try for the first time this year, is build it from the inside out. So start with your winner, figure out who your winner is playing in the final, and go that way and build it out. And then you can start to look for upsets and look for things that may happen versus picking them because they're right in front of you. So you could be like, who could be here? Oh, maybe it's maybe this is where the 10th seed will get to. Maybe a 9 seed flips into the Sweet 16 here. So, try that this year for sure. I would recommend.
Yeah, it's an interesting, and I've never thought of doing it that way, to be honest with you. I think traditionally I've always built it from the outside in and ended at the winner, but
it's easier that way too.
Yeah, totally easier that way. I mean, I think you have to think a little bit more and do a little bit more research when you're building it from the inside out, and really kind of see where that nets out. So who do you got? Who are you thinking?
So I again, not knowing a lot, looking at the league, who's coming in pretty hot. I mean, it's hard to go against like a Baylor or a Gonzaga here. But I'm not taking either of those teams to win. I am locking in on a 1 seed for sure. And it's Illinois. They're coming off winning their the Big Ten tournament. I like their chances. I think they got a pretty easy schedule, especially to start. I've never even heard of this team. What are they? The Drexel Dragons? Where the heck is Drexel? And then exactly. And I will say this, you know what I'm missing this year is the Ivy League teams. We talk about new people coming in always, but I would love to bet the Ivy League teams. I just felt like they're just so much smarter than everybody. and they just have everything drawn up a little bit better. It's always the way I felt about the Ivy League teams growing up. And then they go out, just because they had little talent. But I missed that this year for sure. But Illinois is my pick, sir.
Yeah, it's good pick for sure. This one for me, I've kind of struggled between a couple picks here, and there's been a few long shots that I've really looked at. And I say long shot, it's not really a long shot, but you take Alabama, who's number 2 seed. But there's some interest in Alabama with me, only on the basis that I think they're a pretty well balanced team from what I've seen. Do I think that they can get there in the end and match the likes of a Gonzaga or a Baylor? Maybe not. Baylor, I'm actually fading on, to be honest with you. I think this year I'm actually going with the favorite on this one in Gonzaga. I just think coming into this thing playing so well, I wouldn't say heavy favorite, but they are a big time favorite here. I do like Gonzaga to win this one and run the tables here. So that would be my pick. To be honest, who they end up playing and how I get there. I haven't actually blown out the full bracket yet, so still working towards that. And I might take that strategy of building from the inside out and see where I land, how I get to.
All right, that's great. That's good. And I think some homework for the week is a little geography. You figure out where Winthrop is, and I got Drexler, wherever the place is.
Was it Drexler?
I'm going to figure out. I'm going to learn a little bit more.
Dragons?
Drexler Dragons. I'm going to learn a little bit more about Drexler this week and share that next week.
That's a tough handle for that group there. Drexler Dragons. But hey, who knows? We'll see what happens. Maybe they're the second 16 seed to knock off your number 1. I'm surprised you didn't go with Baylor just based on your pinata pick on Sports Interaction.
Can you believe that? Like, I was going to share that after the fact, but yeah, Baylor. I just did it. Sports Interaction. I just threw a 20 down on the pinata pick, and it gives you what plus 5,000 there.
Yeah,
and I just hit Baylor. So that'll pay out just over $1,000 on that 20 if it hits.
Yeah,
crazy.
Which is insane considering.
Crazy.
I did the same thing, and who did I'm trying to remember who I landed on. Eastern Washington Eagles. So we'll see how that pans out. But
go Eagles.
Yeah, hey, we'll see where we go. Sweet. So that is NCAA. That's a wrap on this week. Hope you guys all enjoy watching over the weekend. We'll look forward to chatting with you guys again next week, and we'll sort of recap how we did throughout our NCAA. We'll definitely update you on the double under theory and let you know if that's something you should check out.
Friday, Saturday, it's gonna be so much fun. Can't wait.
Let's
pick your Cinderella.
Maybe we'll give a little update. Yeah. We'll give a little update on social maybe. As we go.
For sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, check it out.
Cool.
Enjoy.
Classic standard get better sports ending to their podcast.
Yeah.
Have a great week, everyone.